Amon pulls open the door as an angry-looking woman steps into Jade's apartment. She bows down to Amon, nods at Seth and smiles when her eyes land on Jade.
"Oh, what sort of kinky party are you three having?"
she says coldly, a flash of something terrible glowing in her yellow eyes. Her smile reminds Jade of a hungry predator, a snake coiled, ready to strike the unsuspecting mouse. The woman approaches her slowly, looking at her from head to toe.
"She's not very plump. I don't see how you'd be having fun,"
the woman says as she pokes a finger into Jade's chest. She smiles at Jade, causing her face to flush. Jade quickly bats away this weird woman's arm as she steps back.
"Just who the hell are you?"
Jade's body tightens as she stiffens her jaw, fists clenched at her side.
"So, you do have a bit of fluff under there, and is that virgin I smell?"
The woman chuckles as she circles Jade like a shark on the scent of blood in the water. Jade watches her cautiously, unsure if this woman is friend or foe. She wondered, would Amon allow her in if she was dangerous? Jade locks eyes with the woman, determined to hold her ground. Annoyance growing in her heart. Was she just another way for Amon to dodge answering her questions? If this woman was another demon, Jade wanted answers, and this time she was not going to stand around in stunned silence. The woman smiles, vicious glee flashes in her eyes.
"Oh, you're a fighter as well, This could get interesting."
She starts to laugh, but when Jade shows no sign of fear, the room falls silent. 3 sets of demonic eyes fall upon Jade.
"I asked you a question. I'm in no mood to play whatever stupid game you have in mind. Who are you?"
Jade says flatly. The woman steps closer, sneering at Jade with amusement.
"How dare you command answers from me?"
Jade rolls her eyes before crossing her arms, glaring back at the woman. Seth clears his throat.
"Zoe, I really don't think now is the time for jokes."
"Who said I was joking? Is she spoken for?"
Zoe questions as her eyes fall upon the 2 men. When no one claims Jade under a contract, Zoe smiles.
"In that case..."
Before Zoe can finish her statement, she is suddenly thrown across the room. She hits the way and slides down to the floor, bringing down the flat screen with her.
"You'd do wise to mind your place, Zoe,"
Amon commands coldly as he moves to stand in front of Jade. Zoe quickly stands, unfazed and seething with anger.
"Sir, forgive me, but..."
Zoe starts to voice her complaint, but the fury she felt drains instantly when she sees Jade grasp Amon's hand. Jade had moved closer to Amon, both curious and fearful of this woman. She subconsciously grabbed onto Amon as though he was her saving grace. Amon stiffens, feeling Jade's tiny hand grasp his own. The room falls into silence, leaving Jade uncomfortable and confused. The scene also baffled all 3 demons.
"What the hell is that thing?"
Zoe shouts, pointing at Jade. Amon blinks his confusion away, clearing his throat and getting Jade's attention. Her face heats up and redness spreads over her features as she quickly lets go, embarrassed over what she'd just done. Amon tilts his head, clearly amused as he watches her. Her ability to change color was perplexing. Seth rubs the back of his neck as he speaks.
"Yeah, it kind of just happened a moment ago. We don't know what to make of it yet."
Zoe looks to Seth, then to Amon, and finally rests her gaze on Jade. Although Zoe no longer looked like she wanted to eat her, Jade still felt uncomfortable by her presence. She was clearly another demon, but what was she doing here? How did her apartment suddenly become the hangout place for demons?
"What is she?"
Zoe questions again, but all eyes fall to Jade without explanation.
"Human, I think."
Seth replies as he shrugs, having no real explanation. Zoe tilts her head thoughtfully as she rests a hand on her chin.
"I see."
She bows ever so slightly.
"My apologies, miss."
This time, when Zoe looks at Jade, she no longer seems like a villain. Jade shrugs one shoulder awkwardly and turns away from Zoe's gaze.
"Suddenly there are 3 demons in my apartment."
Jade scratches the side of her head, trying to make sense of her own thoughts as she speaks.
"Is this normal? I mean, it's bad enough Seth followed me home, and after last night, I don't really feel like it's polite of me to ask you to leave."
Jade looks at Amon sideways, feeling a little embarrassed. Amon gives her a soft smile, however. Before he can respond, Zoe butts into the conversation.
"What happened last night? I knew there was something freaky going on here. Guess you two must be pretty well acquainted."
Zoe giggles gleefully, to Jade's dismay. Her face turns beet red as she understands the meaning to Zoe's words.
"We became friends last night, nothing more."
Amon states pointedly, his features now completely serious. Zoe quickly quiets down. Jade nods.
My name is Jade. I didn't mean to be rude a moment ago, but so much has happened.
Her voice fades as she searches for more to say, but so simply nods and smiles at her softly. Jade finally lets herself relax now that things seem to be cleared up. Zoe steps forward and introduces herself properly.
I'm Zoe. To answer your question, Sovereign ordered me here.
Jade tilts her head curiously as Zoe explains.
Sovereign? Who's that?
She turns to Amon as he waves his hand dismissively.
Not important right now, kitten.
He looks down at his hand where Jade had held it a moment ago.
I promise, I'll explain things clearly when I fully understand them.
Looking back to the group who now watch him with questioning gazes, he shrugs.
For now, let's focus on the matter at hand.
He tells the group, leaving Jade with even more unanswered questions.
Oh, and Zoe, don't mind Jade's behavior, she's still learning to tame her tongue.
Jade flushes again in embarrassment.
So you're friends with no deal.
Zoe questions as her gaze falls upon Jade once more. Jade perks up at the mention of a deal.
What do you mean by deal?
She turns to Amon suspiciously. When Zoe does not respond.
Are you all here to make a deal with me? I don't want anything from any of you.
Jade explains hurriedly. Zeth places a hand atop her head and smiles.
No, we figured you wouldn't want that.
He looks to Amon, waiting to see if he would explain things. Amon had kept Jade in the dark on most matters to prevent her mind from cracking. So far, she seemed to still be sane. Amon inhales deeply after a moment of thought and begins to explain.
Abizu is a demon, obviously. Though calling her a demon might be a bit insulting.
Amon seems to take a moment to consider his words.
She's more like a god.
Jade gasps, looking to Zoe. Amon can't help but chuckle at her reaction.
Don't worry, even if she could theoretically be considered a god, she isn't above me.
Amon almost seemed proud, but he quickly stiffens. Was now the proper time to tell her who he was. He looks to Zeth and Zoe, suddenly feeling as though this was a more private conversation.
Why don't you join me outside? You two do have a mission to complete anyway, correct?
Amon's words abruptly sounded much colder, and Jade felt it was an order rather than a question. Another secret they seemed to be keeping from her. She internally groans, following him to the patio. Now outside, Amon leans with his back on the rail and lights up a cigarette. He watches Jade, her mind clearly in overdrive, trying to put together all that has happened. She had now met 4 demons, all of whom seemed to be associates of Amon. She didn't know why any of them were here, though. Amon seemed to be the boss, so it would make sense more demons showed up around him.
Why are you here, Amon? You said they're your associates, right? Then is everyone here to help you? What could you possibly want in this little town? And why would you ask a god demon to come to my apartment?
Amon chuckles softly, pleased that Jade had a healthy curiosity.
We summoned her here for a favor.
Amon holds his hands up, palms out as Jade's eye widen.
Don't get upset so quickly, let me explain. We're not expecting you to make a deal here, but Zeth and I both, well, we want to help you.
Jade's head falls to one side.
You're here to help me? Why?
She gives Amon a questioning look.
No, we are here for other matters that don't relate to you. You and I just happened to cross paths. When you decided to call me friend, well, how could I just abandon you?
He smiles at her softly. Jade rolls her eyes with a huff.
What else should I call you? What am I supposed to do? Throw myself at your feet and call you my savior?
Amon places his hand on his chin as if in deep thought.
Actually, now that you mention it, that does sound rather nice.
He grins playfully as Jade scoffs.
That's humiliating and never going to happen.
She rolls her eyes, returning the playful smile.
I'll accept your friendship instead, so long as you don't plan to throw yourself at the feet of another. That would be humiliating.
Amon says with a bit of emphasis on the last statement. Jade rolls her eyes again.
In any case, I am here on business. Zeth and I are gathering a few demon princes.
Jade nods.
Oh yeah, I forgot you had mentioned that. Is Jo a princess? No, wait, you said she was a god. Is she your wife? Wait, do demons have wives?
Amon laughs.
I see you're ever the curious little kitten. Demons don't form relations. Zoe is not my wife, she runs homes for wayward children. Because of this, she has a lot of unoccupied homes, which those of us visiting your realm utilize.
Amon pauses to let this information settle with Jade. Sadness crosses over her face.
You guys are leaving, aren't you?
Jade hangs her head. She hadn't expected, or even wanted, her apartment to house a bunch of demons. She hadn't expected, however, their time together to end so abruptly either.
This is simply the way it has always been. It would seem this time is not a normal circumstance. This time, we may have an extra guest, if of course, she is willing.
Amon speaks slowly, hopeful Jade will understand his meaning. Jade looks back up to Amon with wide eyes.
Guest? You mean me?
Amon nods.
I'm not asking you to make any deals. Consider it a vacation from this place. Be our guest, our guide if you will, to the human matters of this world.
Amon holds up his hand and studies it a moment.
We should try to discover why I no longer affect you as well.
After some thought, Jade speaks up again.
If I understand correctly, you want me to vacation with you in death.
Amon nods.
It will be a bit different, for all of us. Even in the dark realm, none of us inhabit the same living space.
Jade considers his words before a question comes to mind.
How many demons will be living together?
Amon's eyes squint slightly, as if he didn't want to answer her, but he indulges anyway.
9.
Will I be in danger?
Jade asks after a moment of deliberation.
I will ensure no harm comes your way.
Amon tells her seriously. Jade couldn't help but wonder if he was strong enough to defend her against 8 other demons if things went south. So far it seemed that everyone did as he requested, but what if all the others teamed up against him? Could he really be that strong? Jade laughs lightly as she envisions Amon standing at her side in a suit of metal armor defending her from the world.
Why does it feel as though you've become my knight in shining armor?
Jade shakes her head at the thought. Amon holds an arm in front of him as if lifting an invisible shield.
What is so wrong with being your knight?
She rolls her eyes at him.
You don't spend much time around humans, do you?
Amon lets his arm drop, looking at her questioningly. Jade sighs, questioning him bluntly.
Are you saying your interest in me?
His eyes narrow. What kind of question was this? Of course he was interested in her. Jade amused him and her presence was comforting. She huffs when Amon doesn't answer her, then clarifies the question.
I mean, you aren't interested in dating me. You know, a sexual attraction. Oh, why am I even having this conversation with you?
Jade tussles her hair, feeling embarrassed. He clearly didn't understand what the meaning of a knight in shining armor implied. Then again, Jade had 0 experience in the dating world. All her understandings came from books and various movies.
Either way, why would my interest in you, or lack thereof, have anything to do with being your knight?
Amon questions her. He had no interest in mingling with mortals, however. He was entertained with Jade's company. Is this what mortals considered as dating? Amon had relations with women in the past briefly. It had been nothing more than a passing curiosity. He wanted to understand why sex seemed to sway the mind of so many. That was as far as his interaction had been. He couldn't recall a single person he had a desire to associate with before or after the act. Jade sighs softly. Amon appeared to be considering something very carefully, and she worried he wouldn't understand her question.
A man proclaiming to be a knight in armor means he is saying he will protect? Normally men say this sort of thing because they care about the women. They want to have a relationship with her.
Jade says flatly in disbelief she had to explain this to him. Maybe he was a virgin too and knew even less about these things than she did.
Since when?
Amon exclaims loudly, catching her off guard.
Last I was in this realm, a man who risked himself in battle to protect anyone was a valiant warrior. He fights to be revered as the greatest warrior.
Jade felt her eye twitch. Was he talking about knights in the literal sense, dressed in heavy metal, riding horses to slay beasts and defending castles?
How long has it been since you were last here?
She asks him slowly, already feeling as though she knew the answer. Amon tries to recall what mortals had called that time.
I believe it was between the 12th and 15th century.
Jade's mouth hangs agape a moment before she collects herself.
Okay, that actually explains a latte. Look, knights are now a mushy lover's fairy tale. I don't want there to be misunderstandings between us.
Amon raises a brow to this statement.
Do you view me in a sexual manner, Jade?
Jade's body flushes bright red. She couldn't deny he was attractive, at least when he looked human. His demon form was terrifying, and the thought of wrapping her arms around it set her hair on end. Amon leans down to study her more closely and smiles.
Ah, I think I understand now. You change color because of embarrassment?
He chuckles.
Talking about things of an intimate nature embarrass you? Is this why you do not want me to say such things? You're embarrassed of the attraction you feel.
He tilts his head as he straightens himself. Jade huffs and glares at him.
I never said I was.
Jade raises her voice defensively.
I'm just trying to clear the air. Who invites a stranger to move in and claims to protect her if they have no alternative motives?
Jade reasons with him. Amon slowly nods, finally understanding.
Not to put too fine a point on things, but did you not invite me in as a stranger without alternative motives? Why should my offer be any different? More so, we are friends now, not strangers. So, wouldn't my offer be the preferred option?
Amon questions, feeling his point was exceptional. Jade nods, feeling defeated and embarrassed. She dug herself into an awkward conversation for nothing. She fans her face with one hand, trying to force the heat in her face away. Amon watches her a moment, unsure how to feel about the conversation. Did Jade have an attraction to him? Was this the cause of her blushed skin? More so, did it matter if she did? He rubs his chest curiously, feeling a tightness there. Was this feeling what Jade felt too? Was this a feeling of attraction or friendship? After a long moment of silence, Amon clears his throat and completely avoids any further discussion of the topic.
In any case, you will not be in danger in any way so long as I am present. So, what is your answer?
Jade studies his now stern expression. She couldn't shake the idea that he had been flirting with her. She couldn't help wondering if he would be the most difficult one to deal with if she agreed to go live with a bunch of demons. He seemed to get great pleasure from teasing her, but there was no way he would actually take things too far, right? Despite her weariness, she nods in agreement. Amon turns his gaze skyward, a smile on his lips. Back inside, Zoe questions Seth about Amon's plans in the mortal realm.
How is this going to work with the mortal tagging along? Will the others accept her so easily?
Seth shrugs.
Does it matter? Amon is attached to his new mortal friend, and to be honest, I don't mind her either.
Zoe can't help but roll her eyes.
Great. The soul shift is about to start, and the two most important pieces in all the dark realm are preoccupied with a mortal.
Zoe huffs, then looks pointedly at Seth.
Since when can Amon touch a mortal? Is that woman even human? Are you sure the angels, or worse, the Reapers aren't playing a trick?
Seth can only shrug in response.
I understand your concerns, but she is just a mortal. The physical contact is a recent development that we don't have an answer to yet. As you said, there is work to be done, so it isn't like we can get answers right now.
Seth stares out the window, watching Amon and Jade.
Do you think a mortal could handle knowing of our sovereign? Jade seems stable, but she might actually lose her mind if we gave her too much information all at once.
Seth turns back to face Zoe.
She doesn't even know who Amon is. How could she be trying to play a trick on him? Who would dare do so anyway?
Seth lets a soft chuckle out as he shakes his head. Zoe lets her gaze fall to the document she had brought with her, one already sitting to the side as the best option for what Amon had requested. It was a large, older-style Victorian home, one with a large family room and second smaller living room. It had 10 rooms on the second floor, an extravagant kitchen, and was positioned deeper in the wooded area of town. Privacy would be of no concern there. Zoe was positive it would be the perfect option, but she hadn't understood the need of 10 rooms. Amon only needed 8 homes in the past. 1 home for each prince and an additional home for himself and his right hand, Seth.
I was shocked too when I found out Amon had taken an interest in a mortal.
Seth pats her on the shoulder, bringing her attention back to the present moment.
Don't worry, Zoe. Jade isn't going to be a problem. In fact, I think things may be very entertaining this time with her around.
Seth smiles softly, hoping to convince Zoe, but his smile falters, catching her attention.
What are you not telling me?
She stares at him intently through squinted eyes, a feeling of unease present in the air. Seth squirms under her gaze a moment.
Here's the thing. Jade freed me and Leviathan. No deals. At first, I had thought nothing of it, but as you know, a favor done that is not repaid.
Seth falls quiet when Zoe gasps and her hand flies to her lips.
Shit.
She says quietly.
Have you seen them yet?
Seth shakes his head.
So far it seems like the event has had no backlash, but still, if I can't find a way to return the favor, there's a high chance the Reapers will exile Levi and I.
Seth looks grimly to the window again, watching Jade with concern.
Though Amon hasn't said as much, I'm sure he is afraid leaving her here alone will draw attention. That is the real reason behind wanting to keep her close.
Seth explains.
No kidding. The Dark Realm will fall into disarray if either of you were to be exiled. Are you going to try to make a deal with her to repay her?
Seth shakes his head.
I can't. She did something for me without a contract. I have to rebalance the scale in the same manner.
Zoe nods, feeling sad over the situation.
We'll think of something.
Zoe says as she holds the paper out to Zeth just as Amon and Jade return from the balcony. Amon stands next to Zeth and examines the paper.
Sir, I believe this suits your needs. The property is on the outside of the city, so you'd have privacy from prying eyes. There are 10 rooms, a large kitchen, and 2 separate living spaces.
Zoe bows her head then straightens, looking to Jade with a warm smile.
Congrats, you're now the only mortal ever to have befriended 3 demons properly. You should feel special.
Zoe says jokingly and winks at her. Jade gives a half smile.
I guess so.
She says meekly. Despite the circumstance, Jade's heart felt light, and her head swam with happiness. The demons smile to each other. The heaviness that had been lingering in the room dissipates.
What happens now?
Jade asks. Amon looks to her clock.
It's only 4, bit too early for coffee.
Zoe lets out a small gasp.
Shit, it's already 4. I need to be getting back. The kids will be up soon.
Amon nods, approving of her departure.
We shall accompany you to the home.
Amon says, glancing at Jade.
Jade, we will need to prepare the house. I'll return for you later in the morning.
Amon tells her. Although disappointed, Jade nods in agreement. Zeth whispers something in his ear that causes Amon's eyes to widen. He looks at Zoe and she nods to him. When Amon faces Jade again, she thinks she catches the slightest hint of fear in his eyes.
Just stay here, rest. Whatever you do, do not let anyone in until I come back for you.
Jade scrunches her face in confusion.
I already told you, I don't socialize. Why would anyone else show up here?
Jade questions him, but Amon shakes his head.
No time, I promise I will explain everything later. Pack what you need and get some rest.
Amon gives her a reassuring smile, and she knew this was the end of his explanation.
I'm getting really tired of hearing that, you know.
Jade huffs as she watches them make their way out of the apartment. Amon pauses at the door.
See you soon, kitty cat.
He winks at her before they all vanish. Jade clutches her chest. A sudden heavy feeling overwhelms her momentarily. Until that moment, she had never known how much she disliked the still, silent emptiness around her here. As she packs, it dawns on her that this may not be a forever thing.
I'll get a grip, Jade. You're always alone. This is a good change.
She says aloud to herself in an effort to calm her nerves. She shouldn't worry about being forgotten when they were still here. She rubs at her chest, a tight ball of uncertainty taking up residence there. Amon had mentioned not being in this realm for a long time. They must come and go on rare occasions, but how long would they stay? How long would it be until Jade would be alone once more?